Good afternoon, I'm Giovanni Dennis with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. The Jamaican economy contracted by 11.3% for the July to September quarter. That's according to data released by the Planning Institute of Jamaica this morning. It says this was due to a number of factors, including a surge in COVID-19 confirmed cases globally and locally, with the island recording an increase of over 800% as at September 30 relative to June 30. It also noted that the impact of the temporary closure of Jamaica's largest alumina refinery in St. Elizabeth last year was a major factor in the contraction. Weakened business and consumer confidence and a weakened demand associated with lower income due to job losses and reduced work hours were also factors. The PIOJ's data showed approximately 135,800 fewer persons were employed in July 2020 relative to July 2019. This represented the largest decline on record. However, it said the decline wasn't greater due to improved weather conditions, which facilitated growth in the agriculture, forestry, and fishing industry. That sector grew by 2%. The PIOJ said performance was driven by higher output in the heaviest weighted other agricultural crops component, which was estimated to have grown by 8.4%. The most significant increases were recorded for fruits, up 28%, condiments up 22%, other tubers up 21%, cereals up 17%, and vegetables up 15%. One of the two women who surrendered to police yesterday in relation to the beating of a teenager at an illegal party has been charged. She's Shamika McLeod, otherwise called Kima. It is expected that the other will be charged later. The women surrendered to police accompanied by their attorney, Peter Champagny. It's alleged that the women beat 17-year-old Kaylin Dowdy at an illegal party in Barbican, St. Andrew because one of the accused didn't like the way she looked at her. Kaylin remains in intensive care at hospital. The veterinary community is raising concerns about the amended Dogs Liability for Injuries Act. The Jamaica Veterinary Medical Association believes there are gaps in the act which may pose a challenge in the future. The association is urging the government to establish supporting legislation to address the matter. Prince Moore reports.
Yesterday, the House of Representatives approved 17 amendments to the Dogs Liability for Injuries Act. The act introduces criminal liability for persons whose dogs attack or injure individuals because of negligence. But, having gone through the amendments, the veterinary community is now raising concerns about gaps in the act, one of which is that there are no clear rules on how owners should keep the dogs safe or definitive explanations on what is meant by keeping dogs safe. Public Relations Chairperson at the Jamaica Veterinary Medical Association, Dr. Simone Jonali, argues that this could hinder prosecution of certain offences.
We can attribute criminal liability to whoever we deem is the owner. However, it doesn't dictate the rules that an owner should be abiding by in order to have an animal safe and what is considered safe and by whose standards. So I believe it may strike fear into some owners at what could potentially happen, but there are very many who are still uneducated about what is required. And so it could happen that their animal is involved in such an incident and they're unaware of what they should have been doing, or they were never educated, or there will be cases where they know they are being negligent, but we wouldn't be able to appropriately hold them accountable.
Another major problem Dr. Jonali highlights is the challenge of dealing with stray dogs. She wants the government to establish a supporting legislation urgently to address these concerns. This to avoid problems when the law takes effect.
So, for example, if you would like to have 5 large breed dogs in your yard, but you have a very low-lying fence and you're in a community filled with children, that is a risk to the children and to anyone else who may be on the road. Whereas you may just enjoy keeping your animals, but it still poses a risk. And you need to know as the owner that there are these possibilities that could happen. These are the requirements that are needed for you to keep such an animal so that everyone can be safe.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
The Jamaica Teachers Association is adamant that the full resumption of face-to-face classes should not take place anytime soon. President Jasford Gabriel says with the COVID-19 health crisis affecting the island, decisions must be taken to protect the future of the country. Mr. Gabriel's comments come following pronouncements from Education Minister Favour Williams that more schools could be allowed to resume face-to-face classes in the near future. O'Shane Masters has the details.
With many students still not able to access online classes and the government successfully rolling out face-to-face classes, the Education Ministry has indicated its intention to have more schools reopening. However, the JTA is not in agreement. JTA President Jasford Gabriel says in this case, the health crisis must be front and center. He says any decision to go forward with more schools reopening should look at a number of factors, including the number of cases within the specific community and the area in which a school is located.
We still don't believe there needs to be a rush as far as getting back into a face-to-face arrangement is concerned. We want to make sure that all the health protocols are very much in place for that to happen. And so we will continue to monitor that as far as opening is concerned.
He says one of the issues identified is a lack of isolation facilities at some of the institutions. This, he noted, is of paramount importance, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic.
If anyone presents with symptoms of the COVID-19, this has to be a sterile area where both male and females would have their separate restroom facilities, for example, and the relevant health personnel to take care of the situations until other interventions take place. And so that's one of the things we are checking for tediously, and it's one of the things that the Ministry of Health has to sign off on.
In the meantime, Mr. Gabriel says while he understands that online teaching has its challenges, he's asking teachers to hold strain. The JTA president was speaking at the Trelawney end-of-year teachers meeting on Tuesday. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Jamaica's COVID-19 case count has surpassed 10,000. 60 new cases were recorded yesterday, pushing the country's tally to 10,019. Their ages range from 3 to 89 years. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has reported 2 new COVID-19 deaths. They are an 88-year-old woman from Kingston and St. Andrew and a 90-year-old man who lived in Westmoreland. The country's death toll has increased to 233. The Health Ministry says the number of persons hospitalized with COVID-19 has increased to 88. 6 are critically ill. The Trelawney Municipal Corporation says they are now concerned with the number of COVID cases in the parish. Data from the Ministry of Health shows the parish has recorded over 200 cases of the respiratory illness since the first was detected in the island in March. Chairman of the corporation, Colin Gager, says a number of initiatives have been implemented to help in the reduction of cases.
So at most of our places, the strict rules remain the same, COVID rules remain the same, social distancing, sanitizing regularly, washing of hands.
As for farmers in the parish, Mr. Gager says it's no different.
The farmers, they are very cooperative enough, and they know how important it is. So if you go into the hills, you will see everybody, even if they are going to their ground, they wear their masks. They have their little hand sanitizing agent in their bottle, in their pocket. We have given out some of this to them. They have washed their hands regular. They make sure that they stay safe because they realize that this is a virus that will affect any and everybody.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News. Please stay with us. We'll have more stories when we return. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. Residents of Muir House Boxton in St. Ann are again making an urgent plea for help to fix the main road in the area. The road, which has several breakaways, is now posing grave danger. And we apologize for no audio on that story. And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we look at diabetes and the foot.
They're not examining themselves properly. The normal diabetic usually have some vision problems. And unless they can get a mirror to look at the foot and the underneath of the foot properly, the sole of the foot, they're going to be missing things that will develop into an ulcer and infection that then becomes a problem later on in life.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. Inspect your feet daily. Bathe feet in lukewarm, never hot water. Moisturize your feet, but not between your toes. Cut nails carefully. Never treat corns or calluses yourself. And consider wearing socks made specifically for patients living with diabetes.
Pfizer will file for emergency authorization for its new coronavirus vaccine with the FDA on Friday. The final analysis of Pfizer's new coronavirus vaccine confirms that it is 95% effective with no safety concerns. An independent group monitoring the Phase 3 clinical trial says the vaccine even proved effective in higher-risk older adults. In the study, 170 patients contracted COVID-19. Nearly all of those, 162 of them, received the placebo. The 95% effectiveness statistic came from only 8 of the thousands of vaccinated patients catching coronavirus. The only side effect reported was fatigue, which was reported in fewer than 4% of patients after the second dose of the vaccine. The Kingston Western Police say they continue to reap success against gang activities with the seizure of an illegal firearm and ammunition during an operation in Tivoli Gardens on Tuesday. The seizure of this high-powered rifle was part of an intelligence-led operation carried out by police.
A clear example of what is taking place in West Kingston is this find with this rifle. Yesterday morning we were on an operation, and based on our operation we were able to find this rifle. And it only speaks to what we are up against in terms of, the criminal element within the Western Kingston Division.
The police say the seizure reflects ongoing partnership between residents of the community and members of the police force. Superintendent Gray added that the police will continue their operation across the division.
And I must say at this time that we are bent on treating with situation of this nature, as also we are bent on saying persons who are so armed, we will be coming at them in treating with these recoveries.
And now back to an earlier story. Residents of Muir House Boxton in St. Anne are again making an urgent plea for help to fix the main road in the area. The road, which has several breakaways, is now posing grave danger. And we apologize for the technical errors with that story. Moving on to sports now, a Bangladesh Cricket Board official has acknowledged that one test might be deducted from the upcoming series against West Indies after a request was made from the visitors. West Indies are due to visit in January for 3 tests and 3 ODIs, along with 2 2020 internationals during their stay. According to BCB Cricket Operation Chairman Akram Khan, West Indies want to finish their assignment at an earlier date. BCB had presented a comprehensive COVID-19 management plan to its West Indian counterpart for approval, taking the first steps towards the resumption of international cricket in the country. BCB is looking to reschedule a slew of international series that have been cancelled due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.